Hello and welcome everybody. Very good morning to all the viewers. You're watching Hindustan Times and I'm Aditi Prasad. India is 74 years old today and the country is celebrating this amid the ongoing coronavirus pandemic in India and the world. Every year the nation celebrates August 15th with great enthusiasm and great fervor. Indians gather in large numbers to celebrate our independence at schools, colleges, offices. They hoist the tricolor. This year, however, people have been requested to stay at home and celebrate the day. Even the celebrations at Red Fort, where the Prime Minister is going to give his speech shortly, which we will bring live to you, will be subdued this year because of the pandemic. Yes, he will unfurl the national flag and deliver his customary address to the nation from the ramparts of the iconic monument, but it's going to be a low-key affair. I have with me Rahul Singh, our defense, editor at Hindustan Times. Rahul, welcome to the show. And today we're going to bring our viewers a lot of things, a lot of happenings. A very low-key affair this year. It's shadow of not just COVID, but also a slowing economy, which is there on the radar.
Hi Aditi, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Very well. Rahul, tensions at LAC, slowing economy, shadow of COVID, sort of dampened fervor, but still there is a lot of excitement in the air. We got delayed. I got delayed coming to office because the entire national capital is sort of on a lockdown. I live in the suburbs, so coming into the city was a nightmare today because there was massive checking going on, and there's police at every a few, every 1 kilometer or half a kilometer. Tell us what the security arrangements are like today.
No, that's true. In fact, uh, last year this time I was seated at the Red Fort for the Independence Day celebrations, and like you rightly said, because of the COVID pandemic, the celebrations are a bit muted this time. Limited number of people, fewer invitees. And like you said, on your way to office from home, you encountered a lot of police barricades and a lot of security arrangements. That's the drill, and it can take a lot of time getting from place A to place B on 15th August. So you
Yeah.
really need to get out early to kind of sidestep those.
Avoid. And no, even though you step out early, it's madness out there. In just a few minutes from now, the Prime Minister is going to reach the Red Fort. He had to, of course, visit he was going to reach Rajghat, and he was going to pay his tributes there, and then he would arrive at 7:18. That's the schedule that we've been given. At 18 minutes past 7 o'clock, he's going to arrive in front of the Lahore gate of the Red Fort, and he's going to be
Yes.
received by the Raksha.
Everybody involved with the celebrations, especially the guard of honor. Anybody who the prime minister could come close to was quarantined, and the government doesn't want to take any chances, especially in these COVID times. And the prime minister will be reaching the Lahore gate in a few minutes, where he'll be received by the defense secretary and of course the defense minister before he goes on to inspect the guard of honor, unfurl the flag, which will be followed by the much awaited speech. Now, if you remember, the prime minister's speeches at the Independence Day celebrations have been pretty long. I think, if I remember rightly, last year the speech was for about 90 minutes, and
Right.
it had a lot of news value also. He talked about a lot of things. He made a big announcement, which was about setting up the post of the Chief of Defense Staff. He talked about the achievements of the government in its second term. He talked about Article 370. And please remember, last Independence Day, his speech was barely 10 days after the removal of Article 370, and now this is the first anniversary. So it's going to be interesting. Let's see what the Prime Minister has to say. All eyes on the Prime Minister. I'm very sure it's going to be a newsy speech, and we'll find out what he's going to say in a few minutes.
All right. We are joined by, a Lieutenant General retired DP Watts, who's also a BJP MP. Mr. Watts, a lot of security arrangements, yes, but the shadow of COVID-19 and and the virus, a big over there. You know, what do you think, as Rahul was pointing out, that every time, last many years, whenever the Prime Minister, this is his seventh Independence Day speech that Prime Minister Modi is going to give from the ramparts of the Red Fort. And every time, over the last 7 years or 6 years, we've seen that, every time he comes on Independence Day, he sort of makes some big announcements, gives a sense of where he wants to sort of take the country, his key policies, his key areas, that he wants to talk about. He's always wanting to sort of talk about those things and with big announcements and listing his government's achievements. What do you think are going to be the main takeaways from his speech today?
You see, all seven speeches, I must say, there are certain musts. He is first, as you mentioned, COVID shadow. Rather, it looks quite odd that even troops are going to be in face masks, but there is no alternative. COVID shadow will remain there, but Prime Minister's speech is going to be.
He sort of ignores the middle class and doesn't. I think this was also a very important political message that he sent out that to the
I
middle
think
class. And
BJP, you're right. BJP's strength has been able BJP's strength is that it has been able to maintain this multi-class alliance, right, where the poor,
right,
the
right.
marginalized are increasingly voting for it, and the middle class.
A new initiative by this government, not in the sense that it's not that he announced it today, it's been announced a while ago. But how different, for our viewers, if you can take us through, how different is this from Ayushman Bharat, the National Digital Health Mission?
So no, I think
Prashant?
the key difference in the schemes are that, and a health expert would be able to shed more light on this,
Right.
is that the Ayushman Bharat is essentially a health insurance scheme, right? So if you are from a poorer background, you have an Ayushman Bharat card, you
Right.
are unwell, you can go to a hospital and you can avail treatment up to a certain amount. Right, that is what Ayushman Bharat essentially gives. What the National Health Digital Mission at least has articulated.
Modi, of course, without taking names of China or Pakistan, again, he talked about the expansionist powers and also the powers that sort of, from where countries from where terrorism emanates. He spoke about these countries and said that, a strong and powerful these increasing cyber threats and psychological warfare sort of emanating from countries like Pakistan and China.
No, I think the cybersecurity policy is something important that you flagged. I think it is essentially in the backdrop of the fact that the world is entering an era of digital geopolitics, right? And
Mhm.
I think it's interesting because it comes in the backdrop of an internal discussion in government about what to do on 5G. The fact that Huawei is a contender for 5G contracts, and the fact that China now is viewed with suspicion, and there is a very, very strong view within government and outside government. Actual point that we need to keep in mind. So, of course, there, I think, as the Prime Minister said, there will be a broader cybersecurity policy that the government will unveil soon. But I think what he indicated, or what he has suggested, to me at least, what I read it as is the fact that India is not going to allow Huawei to have 5G.
Message that he's sent out through this Independence Day speech to both China and Pakistan and to the neighbors. And he's also talked about the extended neighborhood, that neighbors are not just, and how it's important to build ties with the extended neighborhood. That's another very important aspect I felt that he talked about. Given in the geopolitical, the geopolitics of today's world, and given
That is emerging from the political leadership is one of determination, which is important. But I think, given that 100 days have passed, it is important to question the government and ask what really is the plan. Because even as we say that not an inch of territory will be grabbed, the fact is that the Chinese are on this side of the LAC. And
absolutely.
we don't have a mechanism to push them back. So I think, and I think we've made our point, that remained a gap. If I could move on to the extended neighborhood, I think
Yeah.
what you said was absolutely important. The fact is that relations in South Asia with many of the neighbors today are not in the best of health, not often because of India, but because of the internal politics of these smaller countries. Nepal comes to mind, for instance, or because of the Chinese presence in many of these countries. But the Prime Minister was telling the leaders of these countries that, look, you want to work together for the benefit of everybody in the region, let's get together. And I think the subtext of that was that it has to be based on an approach of